Good afternoon, everyone. Okay. It's fine. Okay. Let's start with the background. Climate change is a global concern, and it's affecting our communities, our ecosystems, and economies. This was supported by Adeyanju and Krisha 2022. And Philhoff reported that there is an immediate need for mitigation and adaptation strategies due to the increased impacts. Oh, okay. 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's move on again. We are still on the background. Understanding and engaging with climate change can be varied among different groups. When teaching about this topic can be very, very challenging due to different misconceptions and complexities. So the students that are involved in environmental field, they are much passionate about sustainability and they can drive climate change actions. So universities like IUM plays a major role in equipping students with knowledge and skills for climate actions. So however, despite the role that the university plays in equipping students with knowledge on climate change, there is still few studies which focus on students' perceptions. The existing research only focuses largely on farmers and the general public. Let's move on to the background, not background, but problem statement. So as I have stated earlier, climate change is a global concern, which have different impacts on our ecosystem and economies. However, the focus on the perceptions on climate change, most of the studies only focus on farmers and also the general public, leaving out the higher education students. The IUM has recently established the Faculty of Environmental Management and Sustainability Sciences, which aims to equip students with the knowledge in climate change and environmental sustainability, and also just to address the current environmental issues that we are currently experiencing. However, there is limited studies on how students understand these topics, how they perceive climate change, how they engage with climate change issues in our communities. That's why the researcher decided to assess the perceptions of climate change in the faculty. The research has 4 objectives. Number 1, to assess the level of understanding of climate change among the faculty students. Number 2 is to identify factors that influence the Faculty of Environmental Management and Sustainability Sciences students' perceptions on climate change. And number 3 is to assess factors that contribute to students' understandings on climate change. Number 4 is to give recommendation, to recommend strategies that will improve the understanding of the faculty students on climate change. The research is very important as it provides the insights into students' climate change perceptions in the faculty. It will help to tailor effective educational strategies, curriculum improvement, and decision making in the universities when it comes to designing programs. And it also adds to existing body of knowledge on climate change perspectives in higher education. The faculty have different courses. However, the study only focus on undergraduate program, namely Bachelor of Environmental Management, Bachelor of Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation, Bachelor of Conservation Agriculture, Diploma in Ecotourism and Protected Areas, Diploma in Water Resource Management, because these programs are directly related to sustainability and environmental. Let's move on to the literature review. Global public perceptions of climate change really vary with intrinsic concern worldwide, but there's still gap which exists, especially in the Western nations. The public concern varies globally, and high in countries like Greece and France, and lower in countries like Russia and Nigeria. Therefore, there is high awareness in developed countries, but still the misconceptions exist. Africa really experienced severe impacts, and there is limited student focus, studies that are focusing on students, and students are the ones that play a major role in driving this change. Climate change perceptions among students. Perceptions vary by discipline, disciplines of studies. Environmental students show greater much awareness because they are really passionate about environmental sustainability. University plays a major role in climate literacy and action. This was supported by Bath and Riecam 2013. The interdisciplinary education plays also a major role in comprehensive understanding when it comes to climate change issues or actions. Let's move on to research methodology. The study was done in IUM, Independence branch. The faculty has different 3 departments, which is environment, tourism, and sustainable transport. It offers a wide academic programs from certificate, postgraduate, bachelor degrees, and master's and PhD. So according to the DN of faculty, the study was done last year, sorry, Dr. Sion Nikela, personal communication. The faculty has approximately over 1,000 students enrolled across different undergraduate programs. The researcher have used triangulation research design with mixed method approach. As I have stated earlier, the DN of a faculty have stated that there is over 1,000 students enrolled across different undergraduate programs. The researcher only focused on full-time undergraduate programs in their first, second, third, and fourth year students, which is now in Bachelor of Environmental Management and Sustainable Development, Bachelor of Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation, Bachelor of Conservation Agriculture, Diploma in Water Resource Management, and Diploma in Ecotourism and Protected Areas. So the sample size was determined using coherent formula, as stated there. I'm gonna take you through the whole process, but the sample size was 269 students. The sampling procedures, the researcher have used stratified sampling and snowball sampling procedures. Focus on group discussion, which consisted of 5 to 15 students from each programs, and the interview takes around about 20 to 30 minutes. The research instrument was the interview guide and the questionnaires. Data collection, as I have stated earlier, the data were collected via interviews and questionnaires, and the focus group discussion consisted of 4 to 15 students. Let's move on to data analysis. Quantitative data were analyzed using descriptive and inferential statistics, and qualitative data were analyzed thematically, and close tabulation was used to compare the responses from different students groups, such as by course or by year of study. And the graphs and charts were used to present the quantitative, and which made it easier to interpret. The study was guided by IUM research ethic policies. The researcher have informed the participants about the study purpose and procedures. Participants were allowed to decline participation, and participation was voluntary. Let's move on to the most important part, result and discussions. I'm going to start with the level of understanding of climate change among the students in the faculty. So the graphs here shows that the students enrolled in climate change adaptation and mitigation, the first year have really poor understandings, and the second years have fair understandings, and the fourth year have really excellent understanding. So moving on to environmental management, the first year as well indicated that they have really poor understanding when it comes to climate change, and then the second year have fair, the third year have good understanding on climate change, and then the fourth year really indicated that they have excellent understanding on climate change. Moving on to conservation agriculture. Conservation agriculture, most of the students, the first years has really poor understandings. So by the time the research was carried on, so there was no third year and the fourth years. So it was a new course. On water management, the first years have poor understandings, and the second years have a fair understanding. Ecotourism and protected areas really indicate that the first years have poor understanding on climate change. This is just what I have stated, explained earlier on the graph. First year students really struggle due to limited exposures to climate change, climate specific causes. This was also supported, which is similar to the finding by Kariuki and many others in 2019 in South Africa, which indicate that the first year student really struggles in climate change understandings because they were not exposed earlier, but as they progress in their year of studies, then knowledge really increased by third and fourth years due to cumulative learning from environmental modules. BioWare 2021 also stated that the curriculum gaps in different study disciplines, which leads to now insufficient, which is now caused by insufficient practical components. Okay, just go back. Yeah. Let's move on to the factors that influence the students' understanding on climate change. We have the educational program, which indicates 27%. Let me just go back. Just go back to the next slide, please. Next. Again. No. This now indicates that, please go back, sorry. This now indicates that the student enrolled in this now indicates that the educational program really contributes to the understanding of on phenomena like climate change. And then the scientific journals indicates that the 20% it contributes to student understanding on climate change. The media indicates 23%. This is also one of the factors that contributes to the understanding on climate change on students. The environmental organization indicates 20%. It's one of the factors that contributes to student understanding on climate change. Next one. Again. The student enroll in climate-specific courses, like the one that enroll in Bachelor of Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation, really benefit the most, and they, as they progress with their year of study, they really get to understand the topic climate change. The educational programs which provide structured learning and foster deeper understanding also contributes to student understanding, which was also supported by Huckster and many others in 2015. Jones and Clark 2022 indicated that the media increased awareness but really lacked depth compared to formal education. Some students also indicated that the personal experiences also support the awareness, which also aligned with the findings by Brown and Miller 2019. Let's move on to the factors that contribute to student understanding on climate change. We have the teaching methods, cultural beliefs, environmental organization, and participation in climate change activities. 98 students have indicated that their teaching methods in the faculty really make them understand about climate change topic. However, there's some that indicated that the cultural beliefs also contributes to their understanding. However, they indicated that there's some that believe that climate change is a punishment from God. 19 students have indicated that the environmental organization also contributes to their understanding on climate change. And then 41 students indicates that the participation in climate change activities also contributes to their understanding. This is just what I have stated earlier on the graph. Please move on to the next one. Hasta and many others 2015 have stated that effective teaching methods really play a vital role in shaping the students. However, there is an importance of practical engagement, like such as field work to bridge the gap between theory and application. Participation in climate initiatives, which also aligns with the recommendation by Bath and Riecom 2013, also really contributes to the understanding of climate change. Let's move on to the recommendation. So the research have recommended that climate change should be mandatory in all modules for students, but must also focus in different various disciplines of studies, not only on environmental. The research has also suggested that there should be experimental learning. Most of the participants have indicated that even if they get theory in class, they still need practical engagement. So that's why they now suggested that the faculty should at least organize field visits to climate-related, to climate-affected areas. So it should not only be in class when people are talking about drought or maybe flood. Some of them, they never even experienced flood in their area. So they want to be there physically and to check the areas that are affected. And then the other one is student engagement. The faculty should promote student-led clubs, forums, and seminars. And then the faculty should also encourage the interdisciplinary climate change discussions. So in conclusion, the researchers have found that the understanding improves with academic progression. However, educational programs that are in the faculty and the teaching methods play a major role in advancing the understanding of climate change. And there should be a practical engagement to bridge the gap between theory and application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Demetilia. Did I pronounce it well? Yes. The next, so after the next presentation and the final one, we will have time for questions and answers. So make sure you write down your questions in the meantime, so before we complete the session. I still want to find out again if Mohr Environmental Club is here. Are they? You look like Mohr. No. No, okay, it's good. The next presenter is Miss Monique Jarrett and myself. She's my student, but unfortunately she cannot make it, so I'm the chair, but I will also act as the presenter. So I'm removing the cap as the chair, now I'm coming back as a presenter on behalf of my student. Just to give insight, just like Ms. Demetilia, we are trying to encourage more students to, give presentation, and that is a wonderful one. And unfortunately, mine didn't show up, but she did send in a presentation, so I have a little bit background on the topic, so I'm just going to talk about it. Yeah. Okay, so the topic is exploring the intersection between climate change and corporate reporting in Namibia, standardization and disclosure practices. Okay, here are the outlines of the presentation. The introduction, the research problem, objectives, methodology, the key findings, conclusions. I must allude that this is still an ongoing dissertation. It's a master's dissertation, and it is not complete. So your comments and your suggestions on how it can be improved are highly welcome. Introduction and background. Next slide. So we all know that Namibia is has a highly vulnerable climate. It's highly vulnerable to climate change because of its semi-arid environment, and also we understand that the Namibian government has a comprehensive climate policy framework. That it has a strategy plan in place to ensure that we comply with the Paris Agreement. And not only Namibia, but many other developing and developed nations are in this agreement. And this brings us to issues on climate reporting or climate reporting disclosure. and topical areas on the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. Now, it is not very common or a discourse amongst us, but scope 1, for instance, this has to do with direct greenhouse gas emission from an organization owned or controlled sources. So literally what we are saying is that what is it that how do you contribute to greenhouse gas emission? What actions do you do in terms of cooperation? And your scope 2 has to do with your greenhouse gas emission from the purchase of electricity, steam, and heat and cooling. So when you use electricity and when you use cooling, the air condition, how does this contribute to greenhouse gas emission? How is it measured? It falls under scope 2. And then scope 3 has to do with your indirect emission that is caused by the company, the value chain. So for instance, if you purchase an item from another company and that item has some footprint, greenhouse gas emission or whatsoever, and it is reported, you are indirectly falling under scope 3. Understand that scope 1 and scope 2 are directly linked to the corporation, but the scope 3, on the other hand, is indirectly linked to the corporation. But we all still need to play a major role in reducing our greenhouse gas emission because of our carbon footprint. And so to address all these scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3, the United Nations Global Compact came up with the ESG, Environmental Social Governance. ESG is more or less like something that started very early, but it didn't take good traction. And over the years, there are more discourse about the ESG, Environmental, Social, and Governance. Many of you might be aware of the Sustainable Development Goals, but you're not aware of the ESG. This is just a perception. When we talk about corporate social responsibility, ESG is more like a replacement of the corporate social responsibility because the Sustainable Development Goals was designed for countries to ensure that they achieve sustainable development by 2030. But the companies, corporations, they are not aligned to those sustainable development goals. And to make sure that they are compliant with it, the environmental, social, and governance was designed for that purpose. And when you have ESG compliance and reporting, the Green Climate Funded projects can be used as a channel for sustainable investment and sustainable financing for your corporation. So companies are required to report on their ESG, to give some sort of level of disclosure. So the research problem. Why climate-related disclosures are increasingly recognized as financially material, Namibian companies and regulators lack the institutional mechanism, regulatory instruments, and technical capacity to implement and enforce standardized investor-grade climate risk reporting practices. Now, to attract sustainable finance, it is very important that we also design our own framework or disclosure framework and how we're going to report on our greenhouse gas emission. Next slide. So here are the objectives for the dissertation: to investigate current climate change disclosure practices in Namibia, to explore the financial regulatory framework that guides these disclosures, to examine the challenges and opportunities in implementing climate-related disclosures in Namibia, and lastly is to provide recommendations for improving the integration of climate-related risks into corporate reporting. Next slide. So the research methodology, the design was qualitative in nature with an interpretivist philosophy. The data collection, the primary data was collected through semi-structured interview using a proposed sampling of the participant. Because we want to, I say we, yes, the students want to focus more on the corporation especially. So 9 participants were selected from the banking sectors as the regulator, the mining sectors as big contributor to emission, and state-owned enterprises on how we can balance the two between the banking, the regulators, and those that contribute to greenhouse gas emission. So interviews was conducted with 3 participants from all these sectors. And the data analysis was done thematically. Next slide. So, like I said, ongoing study. We are currently in the data collection process, but as we are also collecting the data, we are also doing preliminary analysis to see what the findings is going to look at, and that is why we brought it to this platform. So these are the preliminary findings, limited regulatory framework. So the findings shows that when it comes to the National Climate Governance Framework, it lacks enforcement mechanism binding obligations for private and state-owned enterprise sectors to report. So what does this imply? It means that the private and the state-owned enterprises are not mandated to report on their carbon footprint or their emission and all that. Voluntary and inconsistent reporting, even those that report, they don't do proper reporting, all right? Weak institutional support. So the institutions, the regulators that should be in place to ensure that this reporting is done properly are not enforcing it. They only provide, oh, you might, you should, you could do this kind of reporting. So these include NAMFISA, Namibian Stock Exchange, and ICANN. Capacity constraints. So lack of awareness and capacity within corporate sector regarding climate-related disclosure. So I was also opportune to be in a conference where we were discussing about ESG, and we realized that majority of the population or corporation are not also aware of the importance of reporting, climate change reporting, reporting on your greenhouse gas emission. The preliminary findings continues. The global alignment. So it is very important. We find out that it's very important that we align with global standard reporting in terms of the international financial reporting standards, especially when it comes to the Scope 1 and Scope 2 reporting. Proactive institutional actors. The Bank of Namibia, although released the guidelines for climate-related financial risks for domestic systematically important banks, and the stock exchange. So this is where the green bond listing segment comes into play. So it's like a guideline, but there is no standardized reporting anyways in the place. But we cannot say we are not moving in the right direction. If you are in the right space, you will also understand that there is some level of progress along this trajectory to ensure that we do proper reporting. And this can only be driven mostly by the stakeholders. And we also need regional initiatives. That is, Namibia can learn from all other countries like Nigeria and South Africa that already have internationally sustainable standards board to ensure that ESG reports are done appropriately. And in the conclusion and possible recommendation is that there is a significant disconnect between Namibia's national climate policy ambition and the various sectors' reporting practices. And we need to realign this. The transition from more transparent to a more robust climate reporting standard. And also policymakers, they need to introduce national mandatory climate-related financial disclosure framework aligned to the IFRS, Scope 1 and Scope 2. And regulators like the Bank of Namibia, NAMFISA, Ministry of Environment, also to issue formal guidance and develop a roadmap for the phased adoption and enforcement of standardized climate disclosure. And also corporates to invest internally in capacity, data systems, and technical expertise to conduct robust climate risk assessment and prepare investor-grade disclosure. And last but not the least, professional bodies like ICANN and ACCA to integrate climate-specific reporting education. And hopefully with more awareness being created on the importance of reporting on the greenhouse gas emission or understanding the carbon footprint of corporation, we can all work towards the net zero target of 2050. Thank you. Now I'm back as the chair. Yes. Okay. You'll get the presentation. Yes, I'm back as the chair. We are opening the floor for questions and answers, but I just need to first check again if the Mohr Environmental Club is around or are they online? It doesn't seem so. I hope if they can come, I will still love to listen to, learners giving presentation on something that is addressing climate change education. It will be very good topical something to listen to. Nevertheless, the floor is open now for your questions. If you have questions on the first presenter from Ms. Demetilia, assessing students' perception on climate change at the International University of Management, and from Ms. Monique, Jarrett, and Dr. Anthony on exploring the intersection between climate change and corporate reporting in Namibia, standard setting and disclosure practices. Questions? Observation, criticism?
Presenter, an excellent, again, piece of work from my perspective. I really liked, and this is the only point I would like to comment on, which is what you said at the end, that the recommendations for students to not just travel, but to go out there and see what's happening. And I just want to add that perhaps also get engaged, get involved as citizens. Be part of the solution. Be engaged to try and mitigate. Do some projects within as part of community service or something along those lines. So it's an excellent recommendation. And if you read, there is a paper by Rylin, who wrote, I think Rylin 2007, wrote about MBAs. Nothing with conservation, but your ideas, your recommendation goes along those lines of what Rylin is saying about curriculum. Yeah, so it's an excellent recommendation. So they should get engaged, involved in solving problems as citizens. Be responsible, something meaningful. Thank you.
Oh, you want to chase me out, eh? Thank you very much for the question, this statement, Doc. I just see some couple of people working. Is this from Jan Mohr? Are you from Jan Mohr? No. Oh, okay. You look like Jan Mohr. I'm hoping. Yes. Any question, comments, or statements? Huh? So they get lost or something. I can't be in two places at the same time, but yeah, we'll see if they are there. I will hunt them around. No, you are the next chair. You cannot go and look for their seats. So if there are no further questions or comments, I would like to thank Ms. Demetilia and myself. Yes. Oh, sorry. There is a. Come again? Yes.
Good afternoon, colleagues.
Afternoon.
I'm not sure whether I got you correctly in terms of the philosophical approach that you use. If I'm correct, you say interpretivism.
Yes.
That is what you have. Was there any reason that you went for that philosophical approach compared to pragmatism, given that you are looking at the problem on the ground, that there is a practical problem? You have talked about standard setting vis-a-vis disclosure. So I thought that pragmatism could have been more empowering. Any view in that regard?
Right. Yes. My understanding from the student's perspective is that using an interpretivist approach aligns more to understand how these corporations are doing their reporting, because it's all about their disclosure. Why don't you report this? Because you want to understand the concept, the idea behind it. It is not more about the metrics now. and then we could have incorporated it. It's more about understanding why don't they do, why are we not doing ESG reporting, and why don't we have a design framework for this purpose? And we already understand that we don't have proper reporting in place, but we just want to understand the phenomena behind it, and that is why. And also, maybe I missed that section, is that the data collected was from the banks, right? Interviewing the bank. I know some of the banks that were interviewed, and the mining, just to get their perception on how we can actually improve this in terms of ESG reporting and disclosure. Yeah. So I think there was no really need to make it more metric, quantitative. Yes. Wait, got the mic.
Can you just add on your response? Yeah, I can just add on the response of doctor, of the student. The reason is because he's not doing, it's because of the research approach. He's doing qualitative research approach. So technically, pragmatism involved mixed methods. So I don't see any quantitative aspect of the research. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other question or statements? Okay. Thank you very much. So our next session is going to start. I think we are doing well with time. The next session was going to be chaired by Dr. Afolabi. So you can take the podium. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, thanks also for the participants. I didn't believe that there would be so many. Yeah, so without wasting time, I think Doc has said it. I'm Dr. Tunde Afolabi, and then I'll be the one chairing the last session. So on my program here, we only have 3 presenters, technically 2, because one is coming back for the second time. So without wasting time, I will invite Mr. Ferdinand Kamati, and then he will be presenting on the topic exploring capacity building, education, and training for green hydrogen economy. So all this will be under the theme green hydrogen and then renewable energy. You know the importance, and then we know how the government is investing in that sector and is where the future is. So I will invite you to pay attention and then to ask questions. Okay, Mr. Kamati. You have the floor.
Thank you for the opportunity. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Ferdinand Kamati, as it was mentioned. So I'm going to give a brief about a study which was yes, that one is the correct one. Yes, just put on the slideshow. Yeah, while the IT are trying to put the slides, the topic is exploring capacity buildings, education and training for green hydrogen economy in Namibia. So, next. That is the outline that we are, yes. No, not that one. The other one that you put first. Not that one. The first one. Thank you. The slide. Yeah. I was on the second slide trying to give the outline. Yes. We will look at the background, the research questions, methodology. We will look at the result and discussions. We'll talk about conclusions. Here, a few recommendations, and the last slide will be references. Next. So, education is not only for an instrument for academic excellence, but it's also a powerful tool that we can use to raise public awareness. A recent huge publicity related to green hydrogens has made its way from scientific community into a general public. Unfortunately, the great contributions of discussions, of dialogues, come from outside the scientific communities, resulting into a lot of misconceptions. Okay? Generally, green hydrogen is viewed or is perceived as a magic solution to tackle the climate crisis, energy crisis, future industrial productions. Although unfamiliar to many, green hydrogen is a determinant factor for quality of living standard. From a point of scientific, green hydrogen can play a very crucial role in making fertilizer, fuels, or chemicals. However, the concern about the capacity buildings and the training of green hydrogens and its direct benefit to any ordinary Namibians remains unaddressed in a scientific level. So, next slide. The study looked at two questions: the views of the stakeholders of the current and the future education and training needs for green hydrogens. We also look at to see what are the obstacles and the enablers to meet education and training needs for the green hydrogen sectors. So the methodology of this study was a mixed method, of which 120 participants completed a qualitative survey. However, out of the 100, only 105 responded or have given their surveys. And 10 participants took part in the telephonic interview. The quantitative data were analyzed using descriptive statistics, and the thematic analysis was used to analyze the qualitative data. So what are the results and the discussion? These are some of the few findings among the study which was completed. It was found out that stakeholder awareness, education and training is needed to enable the success of green hydrogen in Namibia. In order to enhance the understanding of the public, and also for the public to understand the direct benefit that they can gain from the green hydrogen economy. To attain the economic potential of hydrogen for Namibia, a strategic and a coordinated plannings around the workforce is needed. Because green hydrogen is something that requires training across the supply chain from production, transportation, consumptions, just to ensure the risk that are involved are managed. Because if the education is not given, the risk are going to be high. What are some of the obstacles that participants have highlighted in the study? There are too many changes in policies and the legislations, and that affect the education and trainings need for the sector. So this moment, there's this policy, next moment, the policy changed. It becomes very difficult in which policy must you train the workforce. Unavailability of local expertise is one of the challenge or obstacles. The one that can design and deliver necessary trainings and the skills. Most of the participants highlighted most of the expertise that we have for this sector are from outside the country. That's what they indicated. Local expertise are very limited. Complex landscape of courses on green hydrogen. So if one is to study or to undertake a course on green hydrogens, the course outline is very complex. And the unfortunately is that there's a lack of courses in most of our local universities. So the participant also highlighted lack of time, fundings, and the training facility is one of the obstacles that is hampering the education and training in the green hydrogen sectors. Some of the enabling factors that the participants have highlighted are such as involving industry stakeholders in green hydrogen can advance and respond to the need of education and training. Collaboration is also another enabler which was mentioned by the participant in such a way that if collaboration is enhanced to develop the mutual understandings and approaches to for address green hydrogen education and trainings. So collaboration can one of the enablers which can facilitate the process of education and trainings. Government can also provide leadership roles in plannings for provision of green hydrogen sector. In other words, for education to take place, it's not only be given to the sector itself, but government must also come with the role of in plannings so that the provision for education to the workforce and also the public awareness of the public and of the local people must be sensitized. It can only be sensitized well when the government is also involved. The policies, the relevant policies must be developed and the legislations to advance the green hydrogen. As participant has viewed their frustration to say, today it is this policy, tomorrow it is another policy. It becomes very difficult to see which policy must we follow. TVET sectors and universities should introduce short courses. If the short courses are introduced on green hydrogens, it can fill the gap of training needs of the workers that in the sectors of green hydrogens. The restructuring of the trainings is also needed, and the capacity buildings need to happen in the green hydrogen to avoid bureaucracy from holding back the success of the developments. Okay? In conclusions, awareness, trainings, and capacity building plays a crucial role in ensuring that the development and adaptabilities and the resilience of green hydrogen in Namibia find its success. The absence of local expertise on green hydrogen in Namibia deprive Namibia to play a significant role in this sector. The study have contributed toward the understandings of how stakeholders views education and training and its direct benefit and the role it supports the emerging green hydrogen economy in Namibia. So these are some of the recommendations which was recommended after this study. The expansions of advocacy. Advocacy is education, public awareness, knowledge disseminations, so that the public understands the essence of these sectors. The training opportunity for improved understanding. The workforce that are working in that sector need to be trained for them to understand how the sector is supposed to be improved. Stakeholders in the green hydrogen also need to be involved for the participations of this sector to continue and reach its success. These are some of the, next. These are some of the references that was used in this study. And I hope I did not confuse you more.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Doc. So I think, Doc, just have a seat, and then we'll call upon the next presenter. Should be Miss Jinga Zirota. Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's like, all right, it's okay. My name is Jinga Zirota, as you heard by Dr. Tunde. I'm a student at IUM, and I'm going to present the paper which I wrote with my co-author, at the same time as my supervisor, Prof. Vice Chancellor Makanyaza. Okay. This is the outline. Can you move? Slideshow. Just having the. All right. This is the excuse me? All right. Oh. Okay. It's having the topic which reads Sustainable Entrepreneurship, then the role of Environmental Investment Fund of Namibia as a financial supporter. This is the outline of the paper. Then I'll move on to introduction. Indigenous knowledge, often described as traditional or local knowledge, encompasses the wisdom, the practice, the belief systems developed by communities over generations through intimate interaction with their local ecosystem, as supported by the scholars. In Namibia, this knowledge is embedded within the cultural fabric of diverse groups such as the San of Ahimba, Nama, and Topras, a few to mention, forming an indispensable part of the nation's intellectual heritage, supported by the scholar. Far from being a historic relic, indigenous knowledge constitutes a living, empirical tested repository of strategies for environmental management, sustainable agriculture, and community health, positioning it as a crucial epistemic resources for addressing contemporary global changes like climate changes and food insecurity, as supported by the scholar. The practical relevance of these knowledge systems is increasingly recognized in initiatives such as the Urban Agriculture Program in Windhoek, which aim to bolster local food security. Despite its significant potential, the integration of indigenous knowledge into formal entrepreneurial and financial ecosystem remains markedly unutilized. This research therefore seeks to critically examine the role of Environmental Investment Fund of Namibia, a key institutional sector designed to support community-based climate adaptive projects. Through a qualitative case study, this research aimed to evaluate how the EIF promotes the indigenous knowledge integration, explore the challenges and opportunities faced by indigenous knowledge entrepreneurs, and propose mechanisms to advance both economic development and environmental sustainability, whereby informing more inclusive policy and financing models. The research objectives. The specific research objectives were to evaluate the extent to which the Environmental Investment Fund incorporates indigenous knowledge into its funding strategies, to explore the challenges and opportunities faced by indigenous knowledge-based enterprises, and to identify the mechanisms through which these enterprises can advance economic development and environmental sustainability. Then I move on to conceptual framework. The conceptual framework for this study is an integrated model of indigenous knowledge-based entrepreneurial development situated within the context of epistemic and institutional power structures. Core components: indigenous knowledge system, the foundational asset containing practice, natural farming, ethnopharmacology. This ethnopharmacology is the one that it's like a multidisciplinary, where different cultures are using these plants and for the medicine to cure the sickness. This has to be natural. Financial intermediary of environmental investment funds. It acts as a bridge, employing strategies like asset financing, value chain development, and joint ventures to translate indigenous knowledge into viable enterprises. It operates under institutional logistics, including for donor timelines and formal reporting. Its enabling environment includes the policing framework, intellectual property laws, educational curricula, and market forces. And there is interacting forces, supportive forces, communicating resilience, food sovereignty, health benefits, Catholic finance, peer-to-peer knowledge sharing. Then there's impeding forces, epistemic injustice, institutional isomorphism, operational hurdles, that is literacy governance here, governance in fightings. Then biopiracy. When you are talking of this biopiracy, is when the people they came, especially from the other parts of the world, let's say even from the western side, they came, then they come as if they are coming to do research. When they come to do the research, they take the information, then they go back with our information. They see the goodness in our information. They see the benefits in our information of the indigenous knowledge. They start to use it. When they start to use it, they don't give accreditation to us. They just try to using it on their own benefits. And for us, we left without any accreditation, and even the compliments, they don't even send the compliments about their indigenous knowledge, but them, they are benefiting with it without our knowledge, without even us to allow them to use that indigenous knowledge. They come as if they want to use it only for academics, but for them, they are using for other purposes, for none like academics. Then the outcome, the framework positions that sustainable community-based entrepreneurships emerges from the dynamic and often tenses interaction between these components and forces. The key concept and literature. Indigenous knowledge defined as a traditional local knowledge system encompassing empirically tested practice for environmental stewardship, sustainable agriculture, and community health. And all is this coming from one resources that we know that is very vital in all our lives, be it we are on which culture or tradition, that is land. Land is very important to all of us because we don't own land, but the land is the one that owes us. From it, we came from, and from it we shall return. It is a vital resource for addressing modern changes like even climate changes and food security. Sustainable entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship that integrates economic activity with environmental stewardship and social welfare, and exemplified by the indigenous knowledge-based enterprises in this study. The key concept and literature continues. The epistemic injustice and decolonial theory, drawing on scholars the scholars, the literature review would frame the marginalization of indigenous knowledge as a form of epistemicide or coloniality of knowledge, where Western knowledge systems are privileged, rendering indigenous knowledge legitimate. Catalytic finance and blended values. The environmental investment funds approach aligned with the concept of catalytic finance, where public capital de-risk and crowds in sustainable entrepreneurs and sustainable enterprises and blended value, which seek both profit and community base. Biopiracy and intellectual property. The literature would cover the risk of indigenous knowledge commercialization, including the biopiracy and the structural incompatibility of global intellectual property regime with the collective of intergeneration nature of indigenous knowledge as supported by the scholars. The research methodology, research design. A qualitative case study approach selected to gain a rich contextualizing understanding of the Environmental Investment Fund of Namibia's role in its real world context. Data collection. It was a triangulation through two primary methods: semi-structured interviews conducted with the purposive selecting of sample of a key stakeholders. That is the Environmental Investment Fund of Namibia officials, that is the project manager and the risk assessment officers. The beneficiaries for entrepreneur engaging in indigenous business farming, and an academic scholar specializing in indigenous knowledge system. Document analysis review for EIF documents, reports, and the project proposal. Data analysis, thematic analysis of the qualitative data summarizing findings into major themes and sub-themes related to practice, institutional structures, and challenges. Then I will move on to analysis and results. The study employed a qualitative thematic analysis to interview, transcript, and supporting documents. This approach was used to identify, analyze, and report patterns, the themes concerning the integration of indigenous knowledge into sustainable entrepreneurship. The theme 1, indigenous knowledge into sustainable levels praxis. Sub-theme 1.1, in natural farming and agroecological stewardship. Farmers internationally reject chemical inputs, citing intergenerational responsibilities. They employ innovative low-cost solutions like organic pesticide. For example, mixing garlic and chili as a pest control, demonstrating a paradigm of coexistence with nature. Sub-theme 1.2, social, economic, and health outcomes. Indigenous knowledge-based agriculture lead to food security, dietary diversity, income generation, and health sovereignty. For example, using red onion for medical purposes, that was done during the COVID-19. Fostering sense of empowerment and food agency. The theme 2, institutional structures, insights, and disruption of indigenous knowledge integration. The sub-theme 2.1, financial and value chain management. The environment investments of Namibia strategies focus on snowballing, community benefits, financing physical assets as opposed to cash, and building integration value. For example, building greenhouse and also for packaging to de-risking ventures and capture local economic value. Sub-theme 2.2, operational and systemic hurdles. Key challenges include epistemic, this is the literacy barriers and the loss of meaning when translating indigenous knowledge into formal English proposals. Operational, infighting, and leadership turnover in the community conservancies. Then the systematic, this is the inflexible donor time frames, timing of the project's cycle that conflicts with the community placed developments. The theme 3, epistemic and ethical frontiers. Sub-theme 3.1, epistemic injustice in academia. As scholars experience to have an African indigenous knowledge course dismissed as propaganda, highlights deep-seated epistemic homology and resilience to decolonizing university curricula. Sub 3.4, okay. The two-side commercialization risk decontextualizing indigenous knowledge, stripping it into spiritual and non-commercial values, and leads to biopiracy, where indigenous knowledge is patented without consent of our benefits. Discussion. This study confirms that indigenous knowledge is a vital living resource for sustainable enterprise, but reveals significant institutional and epistemic barriers that limits its potential. The finding underscores the relevance of decolonial theory and the concept of epistemic injustice and understanding development finance. They highlight the blended values and Catholic finance models as promising yet conflicted approaches. Recommendations for the funders: need to develop indigenous knowledge-centered funding practice, or for example, accepting oral proposal, because some of the people, they are literacy. For policymakers, agents need to create a robust legal framework, and for educators, substantial decolonization of the curricula to achieve cognitive justice. And then the conclusion: realizing the full potential in indigenous knowledge sustainable development requires more prolonged strategies that address not funding, but deeper structural and epistemic inequalities and that marginalize indigenous knowledge. There are the references that are used in this study. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Jinga. So I would like to call again Dr. Kamati, because that is what I was saying is technically we are having 3 presenters. So Dr. Kamati will present twice on different topics. So Dr. Kamati, so after the presenter, Ms. Jinga, you can have a seat. Okay, just let me bring this.
The topic for this presentation is slideshow, please. Slideshow. Indigenous knowledge system and the sustainability, a significant way for sustainable development in Namibia. So next slide. That is the content that we are going to look at. We run from background until we reach the references. Next slide. Then the third slide. The third slide, thank you. To start, indigenous knowledge are considered as important source of information about a local environment, society, and its culture. However, indigenous community are constantly struggling to maintain their tradition and their knowledge in a system dominated by the Western worldview. These people face challenges in living two worlds, indigenous worldview and the Western worldview. For decades, communities have suffered from invasions that attack the operations imposed by the Western culture. Oftentimes, they have seen their knowledge falling down, eclipsed by the Western knowledge. Studies have established that indigenous knowledge and the cultural cohesions enable community to manage, to maintain, to use their natural resources in a sustainable way. IK, which is indigenous knowledge, can be applied to navigate, to escape the new and the complex challenges and the circumstances that is impacting our ways of living as people on the planet Earth. The exclusions of indigenous knowledge in the public discussions has also bring into a slow in sustainable development. People don't talk about IK. Therefore, these studies seek to examine the role of indigenous knowledge, its challenges, and also its contributions to the sustainable development. This study came out because of the followings. Some of the empirical studies have alluded to when indigenous knowledge is left out of planning and decision-making processes, the development becomes less successful. The Western techno-scientific approaches, the approaches that we are using, which are from the Western world, are insufficient to respond to the challenges. That is a web of challenges, be it social, economic, political, environmental, that we are facing today. We are answering the question using a wrong answer. The role of indigenous knowledge has just been recognized in recent years by some research institutions and some NGO. Many obstacles such as environmental degradations, lack of sound policies, and ecological development make it preserving and promoting indigenous knowledge very difficult. Therefore, a study of such kind is necessary so that we can keep on discussing to see how do we bring it to the right track. The study was qualitative in nature, and the data were collected from literature and historical documents and the interviews of indigenous inhabitants from some selected ethnic groups. Data were analyzed using thematic analysis, permission was granted, and the ethical principles was adhered to throughout the process. These are some of the findings. Next. The findings are categorized in themes. The indigenous knowledge system in nature conservations. The Directorate of Nature Conservations and the Recreation Resort has adopted many guidelines with an aim to strengthen the approaches for forest and the conservancy management and protections. For instance, community forest guidelines and the guidelines for management of conservancy and the standard operating procedures have been developed to safeguard or to protect the natural resources in conservancies. Many community was also given permissions, and in a study, the area that was where the study took place, many community have completed in formulating their community rules for forest and conservancy protection under the guidelines which was brought up by the Directorate of Nature Conservations. Community forestry protections is successful where or due to its appropriateness to local customs. The conservancy where the local people were given opportunity to put in their views, the protection of those conservancy are of success. The self-regulations, if the community was given the chance to regulate and apply their indigenous knowledge, those conservancy and the forest protections are finding success. So indigenous knowledge contribute significantly to the cultural and environmental sustainability. IK in food production. New crops have been introduced according to the participants. However, some of the new introduced crops are not yield it is intended purposes because they do not fit into the farming system, none in the traditional customs of the local people. An example which was given by some of the participants is the traditional maize seed. A new maize seed was introduced. However, it is expensive to the local people. When comparing to the old maize seed, although people say it's lower in productivity, it requires not much fertilizer like the new introduced maize. And the new introduced maize can be attacked by insects, unlike the traditional maize seeds. And the worms. So, which means the participants are saying the new introduced can be attacked by insects and worms, unlike the old ones. Local maize was easily adapting the physical conditions. And the one exciting example which was given by the participants to say, if you move the most part of the northlands, you hardly see the plantation of maize because the introduced one is very expensive to yield. Therefore, any external interventions can be a failure if they do not consider the local characteristics and it is indigenous knowledge. IK in medicine productions. About 6,000 species of medicinal plants were found in Africa, of which about 1,863 are recorded to be in Namibia. The area which was where the study took place, the participant confirmed that they used 10 to 100 medicinal plants available in their communities to treat diseases and like headache, diarrheas, and the fevers. The medicinal plants are not only protect public health, but also contribute to hunger eradications and the poverty reductions in such communities. Clearly, the consequent biodiversity loss, the reason why we are losing our biodiversity is due to the erosions of the indigenous knowledge. IK in disaster risk management. The integration of IK in disaster risk management has been slow compared to other disciplines. However, research on disaster risk management has not only demonstrated the significance of indigenous knowledge in preventing the effect of natural disaster, but also offer early warnings. Participants indicated some good knowledge when the rain is about to happen and there is going to be storm. There are some warnings the participants have indicated. Preparedness, indigenous knowledge can offer early warnings, preparedness, response, and even post-disaster recoveries. Due to indigenous various strategies were applied. So indigenous knowledge has helped some of the community to apply some strategies, such as weather forecasting, such as adapting to agricultural practice to limit damage to crops and protect livestock from harm. The challenges for preserving and promoting IK, which is indigenous knowledge. The influence of modern views, the modern world views and the religious contributed to the destruction of indigenous knowledge. The reason why participants are indicating the reason why our indigenous knowledge is downing is the influence of modern world views and the religious. Many national policies and the programs do not consider the diversification of any ethnic culture and natural conditions. The policies are developed, but the IK is not integrated. Planners, technicians play more focus on modern technology rather than relying on indigenous knowledge, as they consider it to be primitive. The erosions of indigenous knowledge means the loss of variable resources for human and sustainable development. In conclusion, indigenous knowledge have proven to be efficient to respond to the challenges people face in the world of today. It's efficient response to these challenges. Indigenous knowledge play a significant role in the development of several sectors, such as forestry, agriculture, and medicines. Indigenous knowledge loss can increase the vulnerability and the risk for indigenous populations. Recognized indigenous peoples and their knowledge is a variable weapon in the fight against climate change, sustainable development challenges, and maintaining global biodiversity. Some of the recommendations that were picked from the study are as follow: correct, document, disseminate indigenous knowledge system. The study is recommending to preserve, to revive indigenous knowledge by empowering local community and rediscover the value of the indigenous knowledge. The study is recommending to build and strengthen the national institutions that is relating to indigenous knowledge. Incorporate indigenous knowledge in school curriculums. Our children are being taught Western culture. Sectoral development policies and programs for poverty reductions and environmental protections. Finally, the study is recommending to promote and enhance indigenous knowledge through the development of partnerships and the stakeholder networks. Those are the references. I thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think we need to give it to them more. We need to acclaim, because they did a great job, especially with the indigenous knowledge. I know we have been going to Western medicine, Western pharmacies, and then we see how expensive are the products, those drugs that are not even working. Meanwhile, if I have a headache, I have the traditional herb that I always use. Just use lemon and then so on. During COVID, we see the importance of our traditional way of helping ourselves. So, without wasting time, I know Dr. Kamati has presented twice. The first one was on exploring capacity building, education, and then training for green hydrogen economy. And then the second one is on Namibia, indigenous knowledge system and sustainability, a significant way for sustainable development. While Ms. Jinga present on promoting indigenous knowledge for sustainable entrepreneurship, the role of Environmental Investment Fund of Namibia as a financial supporter. Thank you so much. So now we are going to welcome questions. So I will just ask you, if you have any questions, just raise your hand. I was informed that people online, our viewers online, if they are present, they told me that they have some questions there also. I think the technique will help us. So in the meantime, let's focus. Yeah, okay, thank you so much. I see one hand there. Yeah, and then I see a second one.
Yeah, thank you to the presenters. job well done. You can see that a lot of work has been taken, has been done in terms of, doing such work. Dr. Kamati, in your first presentation, is it possible, I did not hear much about the literature review, but if literature review was done, which I assume, what were the lessons learned in terms of literature review, given that green hydrogen economy is a new concept for Namibia, but probably elsewhere, similar research studies were done. So basically, I just wanted to find out your literature review, what is it telling us, just so that we can have a better understanding about green hydrogen economy as it relates to capacity building. To the second presenter, Madam, I'm interested to find out in terms of EIF, they are running a number of projects, community-based projects throughout the whole country. 2-3 years ago, I did a research study for them. I was fortunate to travel around the entire country. I would like to find out your target communities where you collected data. Was it in a certain area, or did you go to different sites? Or where was your focused site of collecting your data? That is that one. And then my last question to Dr. Kamati in your last presentation. I did not hear much of any research paradigm that was used. Here I'm specifically looking at indigenous research paradigm, which is actually the right paradigm to make use of if you have used it. If you have not used it, which paradigm did you use? Because it really challenges the Western paradigms. Because many times, as you clearly outlined, they undermine our indigenous knowledge system. Thank you.
To Dr. I think Dr. will introduce herself. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My name is Methuselah Nakale. I just want to also comment on both. Well, first, the lady over there, I was really very fascinated, and I've asked her to share her presentation with me. Of course, I'll do the same with my friend there, Dr. Kamati. I'll also ask him for his presentation. Excellent presentations, and I think I will join you in your work. You are pursuing it's the right path you're on. Now, you see, I think as researchers, we also need to look at the models that we use to research. I've always thought that, or believed that, I think we are also contributing to the destruction of our indigenous knowledge through the models and paradigms that we use to generate or create knowledge. Often we like to do studies that generalize, whereas the literature and many other studies and paradigms, especially those that are practice-based, which I think were, the type of paradigms that we used in Africa, is, some voices are not heard. For example, we do a study here, a survey here in Windhoek, and then we generalize those findings to Opuo. We generalize them to the Zambezi region, to another region, which is very different, which has, its own ways. So I'm just cautioning us that as researchers, we need to be careful with the generalizations, because knowledge is social and it is contextual and dynamic. Yeah, to the two researchers, in short, I know I don't want to monopolize, and I know other people want to also make a contribution. Excellent work. I will join you,
Okay.
my brother and sister.
Thank you so much, Doc. So I think we have Doc Yeah, again.
Thank you so much. It's as if he read my mind, what I actually wanted to comment. And this is in regards with the indigenous knowledge. Now, I'm coming from a health background, and like he was saying, we really need to be cautious sometimes when we talk about indigenous knowledge. Yes, we do acknowledge that it's good to use the knowledge that we have always been using. But in some fields, we really, really need to be cautious. Why? Because, of course, we are seeing that now the disease trends are changing, right? Now, you take a specific medicinal plant that sometimes then becomes toxic to the body, as opposed to it actually doing good, then the condition actually worsens. I'll give an example. You would find a client coming to the hospital, they'll have a wound, and they will tell you they have applied whatever thing. Now, the wound would then just become worse, become septic, and then sometimes requires this patient to be undergoing multiple surgeries. We also have the issue of traditional birth attendants. These are women that have long been there assisting women to give birth. But the evidence that we currently have is that women tend to develop complications, but because there are no well-coordinated systems, where if a woman is seen by a TBA and she goes or she complicates, what happens next? Then women are dying, while we acknowledge and appreciate that the TBAs have always been there assisting women to give birth. What happens when she complicates? So what I'm saying is we just need to be very cautious when you're applying the indigenous knowledge, because sometimes it's not so practical in some fields. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Doc. So, yeah. Let's look for them. And then also, I don't know, maybe they will just answer and then we move on the question online. The online viewers also, they have some questions for us. So I will invite Dr. Kamati. Honor to men.
Thank you very much. At on-site here, I would like to make it clear to say these two studies were not done for any qualification. These are just interests that was developed, and it was brought for us to start discussing about it and see how do we go so that we don't have challenges that are among us. On the green hydrogen, about literature, it's only that it was 10 minutes. Otherwise, if I could present the whole study, there were very interesting literatures where I get to know that in some countries, before the sector was developed, the public awareness was the first thing, so that the public were made aware. The sensitizations, the advocacy, that makes it easy for the people to put their hands on the sector. The challenges now comes to us. If I just pinpoint one and tell me, where is our green hydrogen, in which town? Many may not know. But they are quite interesting literatures. And we take it from there to say, if we can make use of what others have said, because their emphasis was to say, the sensitizations, the advocacy should be number one before the implementations of the sector. Then I move on to the paradigm. The indigenous knowledge is something quite interesting. And we need to take it from the perspective or from the angle of interpretivism to understand what are the people in the community are saying, so that we avoid generalizing. Of interesting sake, if you today, you take a skin of animal and you put it on and you go to a church, after we run away. But if you come in with the jacket from the skin of a cow from Europe, you are accepted. The point is to say the paradigm should be interpretivism. We understand from the perspective of the people that are affected. We take it from that angle so that we avoid generalizing and we avoid relying on what is brought to us. For interest's sake, we should acknowledge, but our acknowledgement, we must not devalue what is ours. But at the moment, we are made to accept what was brought to us. I understand. Nowadays, when you are bitten by a snake, all what nurses do if you go there late is to pronounce you are dead. But in reality, there are plants which can be used, which can be given to somebody who's bitten by a snake. Within 3 hours, you are not dead. It's us to see. Okay. Where do we go? To the Western culture, to what is ours. But it must come within us to value what is us before we acknowledge what others brought to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think Mr. Jinga, thank you so much, Mr. Jinga. You can come and then if there is any comment or answer to the questions that were raised.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to answer, to talk about the comment which was said about Environment Investment Fund. Yes, I went to Environment Investment Fund of Namibia to collect the data, and I interviewed the project manager, and I interviewed again the risk assessment officer, and they mentioned that they are doing multiple projects across the country. And I went again to the beneficiaries. These are the beneficiaries of the program that was done by Environmental Investment Fund for Build Back Better. We call it, it was called Triple B, which integrates indigenous knowledge. So I went, those farmers, they are urban farmers. They are in the side of Koreaka, Bokoro to Kukuna farm. So I went and interviewed, this was a focus group. So I went and interviewed 2 ladies. And they even mentioned something which it was so interesting to me, and I learned a lot. I did not know that you can even control or pest without these pesticides. You can control pests using garlic, and just using garlic and this onion, then you boil it, you make it cool. The following morning, you have to go and spray the plants, the vegetables, and the pests will disappear. And also, I learned that the vegetables that they are doing, it's organic. They are just using organic manure. They don't use fertilizers. They use...
I'm sorry, Mr. Mukwambo, can you mute your mic, sir? Online. Mr. Mukwambo.
Yes.
Yes, just mute your mic while they are speaking, and when they are done and you are given a chance, you can come through. For now,
I'm disturbing there.
Yes.
Oh, okay, we can move on. Yes, I was saying, I went to the garden and I was given a carrot. I just I just eat the carrot. I can even feel the natural taste of a carrot. The natural taste without even, sometimes even there's these fertilizers and chemicals, sometimes they lose taste. But that one, I have to eat. Even they were even busy weeding in the garden. They have to take a leaf on the crop and of the plant and just eat. They'd say, no, we don't even afraid of these things of saying, the chemical has to expire after 7 days, after 2 weeks. No, it's just natural. They use organic manure. So it's something that I went and learned at the time when I was doing the interview with them, while I was collecting the data of this study.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Jinga. So now we are moving online. I think with the technique, I need your assistance. Because I was told that there are some questions there that we need to look at. Okay, I don't know. Okay, so now, I don't know, online viewer, I know you have a question. If you have some question, please just unmute yourself and then, Mr. Samende, are you there?
Yes, Doc, I'm here.
Oh, okay, you can ask your question. Thank you.
All right. No, not really a question, rather a comment. First of all, good afternoon, colleagues, and we appreciate Ms. Jinga and Dr. Kamati with the presentation. Am I audible?
Yeah, just, okay, go ahead, let's see.
All right. No. Mine is to say, Dr. Kamati on IK, on indigenous knowledge, and then the comment from the colleague, from the doctor there in the audience, from the health sector. I think Dr. Kamati has study, or rather proposal or study that he presented today sparks or just the right way to go, where it's now provoking debate. And the good process is where we come together, all of us, or as scholars now from the health profession, and then the indigenous knowledge experts, and then they sit and then they meet, instead of saying that we are dismissing or we be dismissive of indigenous knowledge because it's not relevant to what's happening today. Yes, we know change, the body is changing, our bodies have changed, and evolution has happened, and then our bodies are not accustomed to, our bodies are no longer the same as they were a few years ago, or as our forefathers were. But all we are saying is that if we can merge these two together, the modern world and then and then our indigenous knowledge together, so that we find common ground to say that, okay, we take what we are having today, or how our bodies are reacting to chemical, to the new knowledge now, what we have learned today or what we are learning now, and then when we take indigenous knowledge also, I think we will come up with a better understanding of how to deal with diseases and all of those things, instead of just saying, no, since those are things of all days, it cannot work in today's world. That's my contribution. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for your contribution. As for, we need to merge the IK and then also the Western knowledge. Yeah, I don't know if there is anyone online who want to ask question. If not, I have one. I have one to Dr. Kamati. Not even, I think it's one, but divided into 3 parts. So, Mr. Kamati, when you are presenting on the first topic, when you were talking about stakeholders, who are these stakeholders? Because you have never identified the type of stakeholder you were referring to. And then also in terms of expertise, I know the finding is showing that, okay, Namibia has not yet some expertise for the green hydrogen, which is obvious because before you can acquire an expertise in a specific or a new given area, you need at least 5 years. So the green hydrogen project, We started hearing about it maybe 2-3 years ago, so we are still waiting for 5 years to see the first output. So that is maybe the reason why most of the stakeholders or most of the participants or the respondent, the respondent to interview, they say they lack skills and then they lack expertise. So maybe you can come in and then explain to us who are these stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if... Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Before I come to your question, I want to raise something very interesting. Most of us, if not all of us, when kudu gas was introduced in Namibia, most of us had a high expectations of we are moving toward quality life standards. After 5 years, that was 2010 by then. Where are we now? It's something that needs to trigger our mind. So green hydrogen was introduced. It was launched in 2022, around there. So the stakeholder I'm talking about here, these are the people that are directly affected, including the general public. So the participants in the study were the general public and the workforce and the people who are coordinating the sector. In other words, we are saying everyone has a hand in that sector. But we are not looking to say, let's wait after 5 years, maybe, if we can already see the misconceptions that is around the general public. Because every one of us, if not all of us, are having a high hope that maybe after 5 years, our life is going to be well. It's a question to say, with this misconception that we are having, this one is saying that, the other one is saying this, the other one is saying that, are we heading to the right directions? The stakeholders are worried. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Kamati. The reason why I ask who are these stakeholders is because I first thought is maybe the educational institutions that you are referring to. The reason is because one of your findings said that the stakeholder and then the general public. That is where now I was a little bit confused. I want to know who specifically are you referring to. So as for my understanding, I think you are encouraging or maybe asking the government to do more awareness campaign on this green hydrogen project. Thank you so much. I don't know if there is any question. No question. Okay, thank you so much. You can come. Yeah.
I just want to comment, I don't know, Mr. Elia, who gave us a very interesting to say, let's not take one and then leave one, but let's move in such a way that we merge. That makes us a question from my sister here to say, at times it brings complication, which ending up into operations. It's a matter of us to educate ourselves. To what extent can we apply this indigenous knowledge? As they say, crying loud is not sickness during giving birth, because animals do it every day. So it's to say, how do we make us to understand to what extent must I apply this. Because of course, if you apply let me say you are applying a plant on the wound, or you are drinking. If you drink too much, of course, something else is going to happen. So it's us to educate ourselves to say, to what extent must we integrate IK? To what extent must we integrate the European worldview? So my comment is to say, let's try to merge the two, so that we don't neglect one as we are now. Otherwise, we end up in a confusion such as we are. But integrating the two, I think we are going to get in a right way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think Doc want to come back. Yeah, Doc.
It's just a quick one. I'm actually not saying we do not acknowledge indigenous knowledge. We do acknowledge it 150%, but we are saying we have to look at the setting in which we are. We do know within this African continent, there are so many countries, African countries, that acknowledges indigenous knowledge. And majority of the communities are actually making use of indigenous knowledge systems. But I'm thinking about a country like Namibia, where we know we are scattered everywhere. I spoke about a coordinated system, right? We do know our communities within the Namibian, in this land of the brave. We do know. The issue is, do we have systems that are coordinated? So to say, the Western system with the indigenous knowledge. But also we need to know, within the context of Namibia, indigenous knowledge is not regulated. That is also one aspect, because you can't use something that is not regulated because others can go against what you are using. The healthcare providers and everything else that they are doing is regulated by the HPCNA and all the other bodies that needs to regulate what is used. This is what we then need to talk about. We first need to start with regulate. If we regulate, how? Who should be involved? But we should not then, while we are fighting, because I want to make use of the word fighting the Western systems, we've got statistics to say at least the Western system is working for what we have at the moment, given what the system in the country. But I'm not saying we do not acknowledge indigenous knowledge. I'm with you, 150%. But now we just need to think about the system in which we are as a country. But of course we know other African nations, the communities are using indigenous knowledge. But within the Namibian setup, do we have that means? Just so that we do not have lives lost because we are fighting for indigenous knowledge that we so much love. That's what I'm saying. Thank you so much, Doc.
Okay, thank you so much. That is the art of the debate. I think we have another hands there.
I think maybe as a group here, we have actually failed ourselves. Because last year I attended this conference, same conference. But all the discussions, the report that came out of that, what have we done with it? Did we stand up, or even at the end of this conference, that there should be certain recommendations in terms of the way forward, for us to be able to say that, well, let's identify certain recommendations that we want to take up with the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education. Because who are the custodians of promoting indigenous knowledge? We start at our Ministry of Education. And we go and present. We send a delegation. We present a case and say that, look, we're out of this conference, these are the issues. We want to see something being done about it. So that we don't just come here for a talk show, year in and out. So let's challenge ourselves in terms of that approach.
Okay, thank you so much. I think Doc, yeah. I think Dr. Nakale also want to.
Yeah. Well, I think, you see, what we can do is to also test. Let's create factories, industries, to test our own ingredients. So it's work. We have many unemployed people out there. So why not study, research, and create employment, create new industries by investigating, by testing what we have. That's what I'm suggesting. That yes, it's a problem, but that it can be overcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Doc? Yeah, so I think we don't have any other question. I think Dr. Kamati has mentioned earlier, he said something I just want to maybe to kick back. I don't know, Doc, when you come to my church with skin as a cloth, we won't chase you out. Even you can wear the white chalk, eh? We'll be together. Yeah, thank you so much. I think there is no more questions, and I would like to... Yeah, okay. Mr. Mukwambo.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there any question or intervention? Okay. Mr. Mukwambo, we thought you were saying something and then we want to give you the floor.
No. I don't have anything to say.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'm just preparing to present there around the 4:15.
Okay.
Are we together?
Yes, we are together.
Yeah, is it the right platform? Because I'm supposed to present something there about around 4:15.
Yeah, in which session?
It must be in Hall 2.
Hall 2. Oh,
Yes.
okay, I think you are in Hall 1.
Oh, so it's wrong.
Yeah, you are in Hall 1.
We'll check how we can go into Hall 2.
Okay, thank you so much. When you look at the program, you will see the link for Hall 2. And then you can just log in there, and then maybe
okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, they are probably waiting for you. So now, I think we have arrived at the end of our session. So I would like all of us to, let's applaud. Let's give it up to ourselves for being here. And then we are meeting tomorrow for the second day. And then I encourage you to come and then come prepare. The program is there. Just scan the program and then go through the topic and then formulate questions for our speakers. They won't say it like, it's too easy to come and present here. They should feel, they should have some headache before answering. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a wrap.